Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Leviman-Keaty. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives. Welcome back to Empire Building. And I am here with my amazing co-host, Sarah. And we have a really spicy topic for you today. And so I wanted to kick us off with a question to start. And somebody asked me this a couple months ago, and it really got me thinking. And the question that I have for you, if you're listening today, is if I asked you to make a list of everything that you love, how long would it take for you to name yourself? And when someone asked me that question, I started thinking about my family, my friends, my dog Tari, like our life we're building, our community, like, our team, all these things. And as soon as they asked that second part of that question, I was probably 30 people deep before I got to me. And the reason why I bring that up for our topic for today is leadership is an inside job, right? It starts on the inside and it builds itself out. And we are excellent at loving on everyone around us usually, and our communities and everything else. And what I want to bring up today is that if we are not also prioritizing ourselves and our bodies and our energy, which is what we're going to talk about today, we run the risk of not having enough to pour into everybody else. And so I am really, really excited for this topic of how do you bulletproof your energy so that you have it for everybody else in your life.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a 2-part series all around energy because energy is leadership. Leadership is energy, right? And it first starts with understanding that there are actually energy traps that many leaders fall into. And so today we're going to go into those traps, and then we're going to talk in next week's episode on how to make sure you protect it moving forward, right? Because I know that when Seychelle wrote this episode and when she sent it to me, I will tell you right now, I'm falling into some of these traps myself. And it's so important that we know what traps to watch out for, because we cannot grow a big empire. We cannot grow that business, that life that we're looking for, if we are constantly having our energy literally just squashed, right? And so many times, right, the truth is that an empty tank doesn't make you noble.
You get no awards.
Yeah, no awards. No awards. Okay.
Not like there's no one that wants to win the most tired award.
Yes,
or
exactly.
the most burnout award or the sick award.
Yes.
Like
What happens is that an empty tank, what happens is you actually become ineffective. And so like today is about really like effectiveness, but like making sure that we are careful with these energy traps. And, smart, capable leaders, right, will end up still exhausted. Like you can be smart, you can be capable, you can think you're doing all the right things, but you might be falling into one of these traps. And so we're going to go over what are the top energy traps that many leaders find themselves in.
I love that. Well, and trap number 1, we'll jump right on in. So let's talk about some of these traps. Trap number 1 is show me your calendar and I will show you your wealth. I will show you your health. And what I mean by that is overscheduling your life does not make you a more effective leader. It doesn't make you winning any calendar awards. If your calendar has no white space in it, guess what? Your nervous system does not have space to recover and breathe either. And so if you find, like I want you to go today, take this episode and go where you can sit down somewhere. I'm making you literally take white space right now with us, which is forcing you. So go take some white space to listen to this episode, and I want you to pull up your calendar and I want you to look at it. If you do not have blank spaces in there or time-blocked spaces for white space or margin, and everything is back to back to back, Your calendar is a to-do list. It is not strategic.
That's good.
And there's going to be some of you that want to punch me right now because you're thinking about your calendar and how you have no time to pee in between your appointments. And I'm going to challenge you. Like, you have a to-do list. Your calendar has become your to-do list. It is not strategic on how you are running it.
Yeah.
So I need you to go back in and I want you to think hard and long about that because we're going to help with some tools in episode 2 on this.
Yeah. So overscheduling your life, right? That's trap number 1 is like, and the thing about this trap for me, because this is one that I fall into regularly. Like I want to be very clear. Like, this is something that Sarah struggles with so much.
Yes.
And part of it is like, sometimes what happens is like, you think you have it under control, right? Like, I think I got it under control. And then your daughter decides to play club travel volleyball.
100%.
And you want to be involved. And then all of a sudden you want to take her to practice one night a week. And every weekend you're traveling for volleyball instead of having any thinking time. And then you look up one day and you're totally overwhelmed and you realize, wait, I just gave away my white space because that was the night that I was going to have white space. And now I'm like all talking to my daughter about volleyball, which is awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's amazing. And like, this is a conversation George and I literally had like a few weeks ago. And what I realized that I was being shorter with everyone. I wasn't my normal, like, as caring self, right, about others. And that's because I was so overwhelmed because I had given away my white space. And so it's a trap that you can fall into often, and you got to watch it, right? So like, if you're an overscheduler like I am.
Also guilty. This is why I know it exists. Yes.
Yes. So like, just, you got to rein this in pretty like, it's not something that you figure it out one time and then like it goes away. It's something that you've got to look at pretty often. Do you have white space built in to your calendar, or are you back to back to back to back with no thinking time?
The other thing, sorry, I just want to mention on this too is the counterbalance does exist. And so like, just for example, we're coming out of like all the spring breaks and like, I feel like we've had snow days and like we haven't had school, I feel like, in 19 years. But we had a very packed month of a kitchen remodel and Quinn's birthday and our 20th anniversary and a spring break and all the stuff. So I knew that my work schedule was going to be very condensed because I was very clear that I had white space coming up and I wanted to be able to be present for that. So I also just want to make sure I'm like clarifying too that once you get a handle on this, you will have counterbalance seasons where you will feel back to back if you have a big white space time chunk coming up because your productivity relies on that. So if that's happening, don't get into judgment on yourself around that is what I will say, because there's a strategy. You want your calendar to be a strategy to drive your productivity and your effectiveness.
And this really goes with trap number 2, which is confusing productivity with effectiveness, right? So we think we're doing a lot, we're checking off a lot, we're busy, right? And that feels like we did a good job, we're responsible, right? But busy leaders are often, what we have found, they're often avoiding higher level thinking, right? Higher vision time in terms of like where you need to go, thinking about your people, right? Like not just like having meetings with your people, but like when was the last time you thought about your people in terms of like what they're going through in life, what they're struggling with, and how you can help. And like, so like, just because you're busy, just because you have a lot to check off, doesn't mean you're effective. Okay. So don't fall into the trap of confusing those two things.
That's really, really, really good. Trap number 3, and this is such a good one, is falling off your commitments. And then the trap is refusing to start, right? How many times have I had a moment where I'm like, I decided I was going to do 75 or 76 hard. And then I got to day 21. And guess what? 21 and 22 didn't happen. And now I blew the whole 75 or 76, right, day challenge.
Just give up.
So I'm like, what's the point? It's okay. We would rather hear on the podcast you have 70 days of hard that you did than 21 and stop.
Yes.
It's okay. Like, it's okay to give yourself some grace if you miss a workout or you break a routine or you have a boundary screw up, because we're human and that is normal. And we're on this beautiful, weird, crazy ride called life. And so if you have a stint of time that's like, you know what? Didn't nail that. This week was terrible. I didn't nail it. It's okay. Just start back over next week. Like, don't be in judgment on yourself and be hard. Like, it's okay. Let's just start back.
I think so much of this has to do with like so many leaders are just like me, just like you say, where we struggle with perfection, right? We want perfection. Like we aim for perfection.
And I need to lead by example.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But really what we need to lead by example is progress, right?
Mhm.
And so when I started realizing that so many times, I would give up on that workout, I would give up on that eating routine, eating plan is because I made one little mistake and then it was like, forget it, right? Just as Seychelle said. But it's like perfection is the enemy of progress. And if you want to make progress in your business, in your life, you've got to run from perfection and just realize life is just not perfect. And you are going to have moments where you can't do something, but get up tomorrow and do it then, right? And not just give up, right? So I love that trap. I don't love the trap, but I love like that concept because I've had to learn a lot on this.
It's also where vulnerability lives with that. And I think being real and vulnerable with ourselves to realize like tomorrow is going to be a new day and you're going to have different energy and you can choose to have a better day tomorrow, right? And it doesn't have to carry over from the previous day. You can choose to start it over. It's a really beautiful thing when you can do that.
Okay, trap number 4, I talked to my agents in Dallas a couple weeks ago actually about this because they were sharing with me how emotional they're getting because of their client situations. And, realtors are leaders, right? They're leading their client each and every day. We're leading our clients. And what happens is we become emotional. We take on everyone's emotion. So it's emotional over responsibility. Like, whoa. Like we think as the leader that it's our job to manage everyone's feelings. It's our job to absorb the stress. It's our job to be the constant stabilizer of the emotions, right? And this is really like, I love that you put this here, say, like, it's invisible labor. This is something that we spend so much time and so much energy, right? These are energy traps. So much of our energy on things that we don't need to be. We don't need to be taking on everyone's feelings. We don't need to be observing their stress, right? Like you're actually paying them to be stressed, like not to be stressed, but like to perform a role. And they should be taking on some of the emotions of that, not you, right? As the leader.
I think too, it's such a good point, Sarah. And in a hard market, the emotions are harder for everyone. And Dallas has been in a hard market now since 2023, and we're definitely seeing signs of some improvement. But we're at the highest inventory we've ever had. And I know you have an amazing team, and Dan, an incredible leader that's leading the charge there. And he has an immense amount of empathy. He is a deeply caring human, which is why he's attracted all these really cool, deeply caring people. And when you care deeply about someone and they're going through the hard, it's difficult to turn that off. And I say to our agents all the time, your job is to help give them tools to help cope with the situation. Your job is not to carry it. And when you're a loving, caring human, as your team is, as our team is, as most of, like all of our empire building co-hosts are, it's hard to turn off the care, and it's hard not to feel responsible for helping them carry that through the process. So yeah, that's a big invisible weight that we do carry.
I'll never forget, we had a team advance. This was in 2021. And I had this great idea that we were going to go through all of the circles of someone's life from the One Thing book. And they were going to give it a number, right? Like their finance circle, their health circle, give it a number and then share what they need to do to make it a 10 and focus on one. Like they weren't focusing on all of them. Well, what ended up happening is like at the time, I think we had like maybe 120 team members, something like that, maybe. And I started getting like communication from all the team about what circle they picked, what was going on in their life, of why they rated it so low. I was finding out, one of my top agents, one of my top agents' husbands was an alcoholic, and she had been with me for years and I didn't know. And I found out that someone else had incurred all this debt from, fighting a horrible divorce situation. And I mean, it was like literally one thing after, like heavy things. Like these were not small. These were heavy. And I struggled sleeping. I struggled, like in all things. And, George is my partner in life and business and all things. And he sat me down and he's like, the intent of this exercise was amazing. And he goes, but what's happening to you, like you are literally taking on all their problems, taking on all of the emotions with their problems. And like, you got to stop. Like your team, your company is too big. Like you've got to stop. And so what I've learned to do, like, and I know this is traps and we're going to talk about more like how to help more next episode. But on this one, I just have to tell our listeners right now, what I learned to do is when you hear them, give a resource. Like, here's a book that helped. Here's a podcast episode that can help. And then when I do that, I feel like I am helping, but then I release the energy from it. So it's helped me like navigate like a lot of amazing humans and a lot of problems because life has problems and without taking on all the emotions of that, right? This trap, I think almost every leader can relate to this one for sure. So it's a big one. So a big trap.
It is. I'm like, I love that trap. But it's true. I mean, like these are all things that we have failed forward through. And
yes,
it's so important. This is one that trap number 5 that we're going to talk about is one that you all as Her Best Life founders have actually really, really helped me with. And that is the trap is waiting until you burn out to intervene. And I was in a phase of life when we all were getting together that just felt like 5 or 6 years of just straight hard. And I was constantly burning out, getting sick, feeling exhausted. Like I would get exhausted, get sick for a day or two. That would be my downtime. And then I would get back to work. I would run. I would get exhausted. I would get sick and get back to work. And that should have been a huge warning sign that I was not in the right like loop of energy. And, we're going to talk a lot about how to fix that. But I was using that burnout as like CPR for a bigger problem instead of solving for the bigger problem. And you all, and we'll talk about this in this part 2 of the episode, but you all modeled a lot of things for me. They gave me a bunch of tools to actually not feel that anymore. And it was such a huge gift. But that burnout, if you're listening and you're feeling it right now, like it's real. And I know Sarah's felt it. I have felt it. And you got to get to the symptoms of that instead of just treating the symptoms, right? Before burning out again.
Yeah. So waiting until burnout to intervene, right? When at that point, it can be too late. Like I'll never forget, I say it's the year I took off, but I didn't take off for a year. Like I still was working, but I gave up a lot of my responsibilities to other team members because I was so burnt out. And it almost destroyed my whole company that year because I didn't catch these traps ahead of time and I was burnt out and didn't intervene and didn't do anything. And that's a very real trap. So what we want you to do is we want you to assess what's draining your energy. Some common things like we've talked about, right? Calendar chaos, too much on the calendar, constant availability, like thinking that you have to respond like all the time, right?
Yeah.
Constant availability, decision overload, fatigue, like maybe like not having like a routine for decisions. We're going to talk about that in next week's episode, but like decision overload, decision fatigue, so real, right? Like I do my best to front load in my calendar during the week, the decisions, because come Friday, I'm not the best decision maker. Okay. And so like maybe it's decision fatigue, carrying emotional weight that's not yours, right? Reacting instead of intentionally choosing.
Yeah.
Right. Are you finding yourself constantly reacting versus intentionally choosing? So those are the common ones.
And here's a couple of questions. These are 4 questions we want to give you to maybe journal around. So then when you get to the part 2 of this episode, you can have some great reflective feedback to be able to then leap forward. And so I want you to ask yourself these 4 questions. The first one I want you to write down is, what consistently leaves me feeling heavier after I do it? And that can be on the personal side, that can be on the professional side, but what consistently leaves me feeling heavier after I do it? The second one is, what conversations drain me every time? And we'll tell you what to do with these in part 2, so you have to come back and listen. But what conversations drain me every time? The third one is, and I love this one, what obligations do I have that exist out of guilt instead of alignment? So, what obligations do you have on your calendar or in your job description or in your work that exist out of guilt instead of alignment? And then the fourth one is, where am I overfunctioning for other people? Where am I overfunctioning for people? Whether it's on the personal side or on the work side, where are you overfunctioning?
Yes, such powerful questions. Ask yourself those questions, because if you do not assess your drains, your energy drains, your business will actually do it for you. And what happens is that happens through burnout. It happens through resentment of your business, of your people, of sometimes even your loved ones, right?
Yeah.
And then health issues, right, will come when we're constantly giving our energy and falling into these energy traps. So we wanted to share with you these warnings about your energy, because leadership is energy and energy is leadership. And if you know these traps, you can do your best to avoid them. And we want you to come back next week and listen to how we're going to help, right? What are the 5 simple non-negotiable steps on protecting your energy now that you know the traps? So thank you so much for joining Seychelle and I. It's been an awesome episode. I get so much out of it every time I record with you, Say.
Same.
And get out there, build that big business, and even bigger life. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.